Welcome to the all viewers and well-wishers of the world. The purpose of my lecture is learn the knowledge from the word and return the knowledge to the word. Motto of my life is learn, earn and return. I have learned a lot, earned a lot, now to return a lot to the word. The topic of today is classification of parasite. Classification of the parasites or taxonomic classification of the parasitic organism is sometimes being used, the terminology. There are about 1.5 million species of the organism in animal kingdom. System of the classification have been developed to indicate relationship among the various parasitic species. Closely related species are placed in the same genus, related genera in the same family, and related families in the same order, related orders in the same class, and related classes in the same phylum. Each phylum is divided into classes which lead into the orders, which lead into the families, and then lead into the genera, and ultimately ends in the species. These are categorized into 33 phyla. For a medical man, most important of the names are those of the genera and species like Plasmodium vivax. The parasites belong to three phyla of animal kingdom: phylum Protozoa, phylum Platyhelminthes, phylum Nemathelminthes. Parasites of the human are classified in number of ways. The classification of the parasites is controversial and there is no such universally accepted system. The parasitic organisms that are of importance for the human health are eukaryotes. They have a well-defined chromosome in a nuclear membrane. All medically significant organisms are parasitic in their human host. Biomedical discipline of the parasitology is concerned only with the parasitic protozoa, helminthes and arthropods. For convenience purpose, two main subkingdom of the two distinct forms are protozoology and helminthology. The protozoology first, it is the study of the protozoa, single-celled unicellular organism which perform all necessary function like metabolism and reproduction. These are classified according to the morphology and the means of the locomotion. The other is helminthology, and that is the study of helminthic parasites. These are multicellular animals. These are also called metazoa and called helminths or the worm sometime. It includes phylum Platyhelminthes and phylum Nemathelminthes. So, the protozoa and helminths are just differentiated because protozoa are unicellular and the helminths are multicellular. They are single cell performing all the function and they have specialized cell to perform the different functions. These include amoeba, they move by pseudopodia, and flagellates move by the flagella, ciliates move by the cilia, and epicomplexa sporozoa. These are the tissue parasites. But in case of the helminthes, these are the roundworms which are called nematodes. These are elongated, cylindrical and unsegmented. Then there are flatworms These are called trematodes. These are leaf-like, unsegmented, and then there are cestodes, which are tape-like, and they are always segmented. Now, usually reproductive mechanisms are used to determine species, but still there are many exceptions as investigations continue in the parasitic genetics, immunology, and the biochemistry. Species will be defined more clearly. Previously it was phenotypic approach, but nowadays approach will be more genotypic to know the genome of the parasite. There is development of highly specific and sensitive diagnostic tests based on the molecular parameters rather than merely phenotypic characteristics of the parasites on which the classification is done. So now there are three main classes of the parasites. Number one, medical protozoa. Number two, medical helminths. Number three, medical arthropods, which are also called ectoparasites. So, number one, medical protozoa, medical helminths, and medical arthropods or ectoparasites. First, we are going to discuss phylum Protozoa. Protozoology is the study of the protozoa. It is a single cell which perform all the necessary functions like metabolism and the reproduction, found worldwide in most and the possible habitats. They are distributed widely in water and soil, and these are classified according to the morphology and the means of the locomotion. There are about 45,000 protozoa species, and these infect all higher animals. Infections are asymptomatic to life-threatening infections. They have a short generation time and high rate of the reproduction. They have tendency to induce immunity. They can be free-living or parasitic in nature. Parasitic protozoa that live actively and multiply are called trophozoite. They measure 1 to 150 micrometer in size. Cysts are stages with a protective membrane or the thickened wall when conditions are not favorable. They are able to multiply in humans for their survival and cause serious infections from single organism. Transmission of the protozoa living in the human's intestine to the another human occurs through a fecal-oral route, for example, by contaminated food or water or person-to-person contact. That is the mean of transmission. Protozoa living in the blood or the tissue of the humans are transmitted to the other humans by an arthropod vector like fly, like mosquito, sandfly, etc. and through like bite of a mosquito or sandfly. Now, the basic structure of these protozoa are they have got a plasma membrane, they have got a cytoplasm which consists of ectoplasm for the locomotion and ingestion and the endoplasm for the metabolism of that parasite. They have got nucleus which is vesicular form or compact form of the nucleus, locomotive organelle, pseudopodium, flagella, cilia, by which they do move. Now, mean of reproduction or the mode of reproduction are number one, asexual reproduction, that is by binary fission that results in two daughter cells. Then schizogony, multiple fission occurs and that results in the multiple offspring cells. Then endodiogony or the internal budding that results in two cells that is seen in toxoplasma intestine only. Sexual reproduction, that is of two types. Number one, conjugation, exchange of the nuclear material of two cells, that is in case of paramecium. Then gametogony, that is the sexual differentiated cells. The gametes are formed. These are male and female gametes, and they unite together to make the zygote. And here one can see the asexual reproduction, the one cell that start enlarging in size and divides, and then the constriction between the two cells deepens, and that results two separate cells or the daughter cells. Each is again capable of doing the same, and this is called asexual reproduction. And here in sexual reproduction, one can see the two cells, that is also can be said as the sex of the parasites. These are just going to have sex together, join together, exchange their genetic material from one to the other, and here there occurs the meiosis, and that is the exchange and the fusion that occur between the two cells, and then the new mature cells are formed, and here these are the two new mature cells with the new genetic material from the other cells also. So that is going to make this sexual reproduction again. Now, in case of the binary fission, there is one cell which causes the replication of the DNA, then growth of the cell occur in the next step, then segregation of the DNA as one can see, and there is splitting of the cells, and that is going to make the two new cells which are ultimately going to have these steps also. But in case of gametogony, one can see the infection occur, and there is schizogony occur. Schizonts are formed, and these are asexual, and these schizonts are going to form the gametes which are male and female, and this cycle is the sexual cycle, and this sexual cycle just results in the formation of the oocyst, which is made by the combination of two gametes, and then this ultimately undergo sporogony, that multiple division occur, and here it is the asexual division, and then asexual division in the environment that undergo to form the oocyst, sporulated oocyst, and these oocysts ultimately change to the schizont, which are the asexual, but these are going to make the gametes. Now, the endodiagony, as one can see, the two daughter cells are formed within the cyst, so that is a kind of endodiagony. And here in conjugation, one can see the one cell, and that is going to meet with the other cell, and then they are undergoing the meiosis, and they exchange the genetic material with one another, and that is the haploid micronucleus, and then these are just undergoing the syngamy, and the exchange of genetic material occurs, and the new cell is formed which have got the genetic material from the other cell, and that is the conjugation. Now, the life cycle pattern is one stage form, trophozoite, the vegetative stage, which feeds upon the bacteria and the particle nutrients, and they take food, they are motile, and they are able to multiply and divide to form the new trophozoite. The two-stage form in which the trophozoite and the cyst formation occur. Cyst is that some protozoa trophozoite produce a protective capsule under the adverse condition like toxins, contaminated water, food and oxygen shortage, and they are going to form the cyst, which is not motile and just dormant, and it have got a cyst wall. Now, there are two host form. They live in mammals and other mammals, and there could be mammals and the insect vectors. So, one should not be thinking that one is going to become older. The older I get, the less I care about what people think of me. Therefore, the older I get, the more I enjoy the life because I do not start thinking about the people. So here is typical fecal-oral life cycle, and here one can see the trophozoite, which is feeding on the different things, that is motile and able to replicate, that can replicate. But in certain situation, when there is the things not favorable for the trophozoite, they undergo encystment and make the cyst, which are passed in the feces, and these are resistant and these are infected. So when they infect, they just change and comes out from the cyst, that is called excistation, and the change into the trophocyte, which is able to replicate. Cyst is not able to replicate. Now, the nutrition of the protozoa, most are heterotrophic aerobes. Intestinal protozoa can grow anaerobically. Nutrition is halozoic, as in the higher animals require preformed organic substances, and some ingest the whole algae, yeast, bacteria, or smaller protozoan. Other lives on the dead and the decaying matter. Parasitic protozoa break down and absorb nutrients from their host. Some transport food across their membrane, and ciliates take in food through a permanent mouth cytosome or the microspore, through which ingested food passes to the become enclosed in food vacuoles. Pinocytosis is a method of ingesting nutrient material, and digestion take place in the vacuoles. Waste may be eliminated through plasma membrane or an anal pore like the higher animals. Now, the classification of the protozoa. Protozoa are now classified under 4 phyla. Number 1 is Sarcomestigophora. These contain flagellates and amoebas and include amoeboflagellates. Number 2 is Sporozoa, and also called Epicomplexa. These contain sporozoans and Plasmodium. Celiophora, these contain ciliates, parasite, and Microspora. Most species that cause human disease belong to the phylum Sarcomestigophora and Epicomplexa here. Within these phyla are found important human parasites, which are listed as subphyla. Now, another classification is that 5 classes are made. Number 1, class Rhizopodia, it includes Entamoeba histolytica. Class Tylosporia, that contains Plasmodium. Class Ciliata, that contains Balemtridium coli. Class Zoomastigophora, that contain flagellates, hemoflagellates, intestinal flagellates like Leishmania, Trypanosoma, Giardia lamblia, Trichomonas vaginalis. Then 5th class is protozoa of uncertain status, that is Toxoplasma gondii, Pneumocystic carniae. Now, another classification which is most important for medical purposes, infectious to humans, protozoa can be divided into 4 groups. That is mostly accepted classification because it is based on their mode of their movement. So number 1 is Sarcodina, the amoeba, and Entamoeba stereotica. Masticophora, the flagellates like Giardia and Leishmania. Celiophora, the ciliates like Balantidium coli, and Sporozoa, adult stage is not motile, and that include Plasmodium and Toxoplasma. So here one can see the protozoa contain Sarcodina that contain amoeba, Masticophora that contain Leishmania, Trypanosoma, Giardia lamblia, and Trichomonas, Sporozoa that contain Plasmodium, Sarcocystis, Cryptosporidium, Toxoplasma, Babesia, and Isospora, and class Celiophora, which contains Balantidium coli. So, number one, Sarcodina typically amoeboid and are represented in a human by the species of Entamoeba, Endolymix, Ida amoeba, Naegleria, and Acanthamoeba. Number two is Masticophora. The flagellates have one or more whip-like flagella, and in some cases an undulating membrane is present, as one can see in Trypanosome. These include intestinal and genitourinary flagellates like Giardia, Trichomonas, Dientamoeba, and Chilomextrix. Blood and tissue flagellates, these include Trypanosoma and Leishmania. Here one can see the Entamoeba histolytica with nucleus and ingested red blood cells, then endolymic cyst and endolymic trophozoite. These can become cyst in case of harsh environment. Then Idamoeba botulinum, and here one can see the trophozoite and the cyst, and Naegleria, which is called brain-eating amoeba, and Acanthamoeba, that is involving the eye. So these are all seen in case of Sarcodina. Now, the other class is Masticophora. It includes Giardia lamblia and Dientamoeba, that is Trichomonas vaginalis, then Trypanosoma brucei, and Chilomextrix, and Leishmania, that is included in all Masticophora. The third group is Celiophora. It is also called ciliate, ciliata, are complex protozoa bearing cilia distributed in rows on the patches with two kinds of the nuclei in each individual. Balantidium coli, a giant intestinal ciliate of a human and pigs, is the example. Only a human parasite representative of this group. Parasite move to obtain food using the cilia, causes a severe intestinal infection in pigs and humans. As one can see, an example of the Celiophora is Paramecium, star-shaped organelle, contractile vacuole seen, and the other is Balantidium coli, as one can see the trophozoite vegetative cell of that, and here is the cyst, which is having the cyst wall. Now, Sporozoa, the fourth classification, have a complex life cycle with alternating sexual and asexual reproductive phases. These usually involve two different hosts like arthropod and vertebrate, as in the blood form. And the arthropod is insect and the vertebrate is sometimes a human or mammal. The class Coccidia contains human parasites like Isospora, Toxoplasma, and others. One of these, Cryptosporidium, has been implicated as a cause of the intractable diarrhea among the immune suppressed people. Within class Hematozoa, blood sporozoan are malarial parasite, like these are Plasmodium species, members of the order Pyroplasmida, which include Babesia species. So here one can see Isospora, Toxoplasma, Cryptosporidium, Plasmodium, and Babesia species. And Nemocystis has recently been shown to be a member of the fungi rather than the protozoa included in class Sporozoa. It is another opportunistic parasite of the immunosuppressed individuals, a distinctive group formerly listed with the protozoa, often within Sporozoa, is now considered as a separate phylum as Microspora. It was discovered in 1984 to cause chronic diarrhea and the conjunctivitis, mainly in the AIDS patient. It includes microsporidians, frequently seen as opportunistic parasites of the immunosuppressed host. And here one can see pneumocystic pneumonia caused by the pneumocystic carnii. And here is Microsporidium pathogenesis, a human infection. These called diarrhea, pneumonia, encephalitis, and nephritis. And one can see the structure of this Microsporidium. And these are usually seen in HIV and the AIDS patient.